Yes,
We're
you're
good
good.
now. I'm gonna make up for it. I'm gonna make up for it.
We're
I am going to.
so good.
I am going
So
to
good.
make up for it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. This is Live Well Wednesday, and thank you so much for joining us. We had some technical difficulties the first go around. We're a little late, but we are good now. So come on, everybody that was watching before. I know you can do it. Let's bring everybody back in. But to kind of reiterate what I had said earlier, this is exciting for me because this is our 10th Live Well Wednesday. So that's a huge milestone to actually have 10 of these under my belt. And it's pre-Valentine's Day. So I have invited a good friend of mine and someone I'm super excited that has joined us because he's usually on the other side of these things and interviewing people. So it's kind of cool that my friend Greg GL Henderson has agreed to come on here and talk about all the stuff he's into and relationships and just having a good chat right before Valentine's Day. So Greg, thank you so much for hanging with us and coming back.
Thank you, thank you. I apologize for those who came in and left, and you're probably watching this later on and whatever. I apologize, but if you do catch this uh, later on, you know, welcome back. It's all good. It's all good. But I'm gonna make up for it. I'm gonna make up for it. But again, thank you so much for having me on, Angel. I'm trying to let people know who were chiming in that I'm back on so that they can,
Gotcha.
get back on. So if you see
Yeah.
me doing this, it's like I'm
No,
telling them to, hey, I'm back on. I'm back
no
on.
problem.
I'm back
So
up.
for those of you who might have missed it or are watching this later, I met Greg about 10, 12 years ago. He was a master trainer in the Army, and that's when I was working at the Miami Recruiting Battalion. I happened to be on a TDY to, oh gosh, where were we? North Carolina, South
Atlanta.
Atlanta,
Atlanta.
one of those places. And we were sitting in a boring conference, and Greg was sitting behind me, and we had some of my other master trainer friends there, and we were cracking up and just having a good time. And one of my friends said, "Hey, you should meet, my friend Greg." It's like, oh, we start talking. He's like, "Oh, I write books." I was like, "Oh, I read them." So we hit it off, became friends. He got ran out. Actually, do you remember you ran into the I was leaving and you ran all the way across the parking lot to get
To get
a
my
book,
book.
a
Yeah.
book for me and sign it. And I was like, oh, cherish this. So yeah, I've known Greg for a very long time. He has his own radio show. He's a promoter. He's a veteran. He's a jack of all trades. So I'm so glad to have him on here to trying to jump into things. But enough
Yeah.
about my personal things. Greg, tell everybody, and as they're coming on, a little bit about you and everything you're doing.
Yeah. So, like I was saying earlier, just, I've been in the military probably 25 years, retired now, been in since I was, man, 17, uh, as early as, my mom was able to sign the waiver. Uh, and, being in the military, like it opened up my eyes to a lot of things, being able to travel and just seeing so many, people from so many walks of life. And I started gravitating to the relationship stuff. I just started watching people. And what made it intriguing to me is like most of us back, growing up in the 80s, you either grew up in your neighborhood, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't the internet, there wasn't social media, there wasn't any interaction except for the people that you interacted with, and if you, like I literally ran across, individuals in basic training who said they've never seen a black guy before, you know what I mean? Or vice versa, or any other, culture, so it was like totally different. So my perception of what I thought relationships were, I thought it was just for us, where I grew up at. But I started realizing like other people were going through the same thing too. you know, regardless of what walks of life they came from. So over time, you know, I was just fascinated by, you know, the idea of relationships. And then, um, you know, one day you know, I was going through a divorce, and I was sitting in my apartment, and I just started writing, and like literally have never written anything outside of a paper before. I, you know, I never thought that I would be an author or do the stuff that I'm doing now or meet the people that I've met. But I just started writing, and the next thing you know, these characters started coming out of nowhere, and then the title, you know, came, and then I was just like, okay, I got this title and these characters, and then I'm thinking about all of this craziness that I've seen. You know what I mean? Like, and so this one particular story stood out to me that this girl told me, but I flipped the genders, and that became the nucleus of my book, The Fantasy Master. Um, and so that book just, you know, after I finished it, and then I'm sitting there with like, oh shit, you know, I just wrote a book. But you have to think back in 2004, 2003, 2004, like authors weren't as plentiful as they are now, you know, like especially African American authors. So when I finished the book, like there were certain authors that were very, very popular, because back then we used to look at authors like celebrities. You know, it's just like, oh shit, you know, he's an author. You see somebody sitting down like, oh wow, man, they're an author. And I was gravitating to this, like I want to be that. You know what I mean? Like I want to be that. But I had this book, and I had no idea what to do with it. So again, you know, we didn't have a plethora of information like we do now, where, you know, you can finish a book and have it print tomorrow, and next thing you know, you got a copy of your book. But that didn't happen like that back then. So when I finished the book, I would go around to like the Elin Harris, the Omar Tariz, the Eric Jerome Dickies, the Terry McMillans, and you know, all of these very popular authors at the time, to try to get them to show me what to do with this book, you know. And I couldn't get them give me information, because, you know, they were getting those big publishing deals from Simon and Schuster, you know, at the time. And you had to have a literary agent, you had to have an editor, you had to have this. And I mean, I'm
And
a
money.
soldier in the military, like,
And
and
money.
money. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have
You're
that
probably like
expendable
the
cash.
E4, E4. Like,
No,
oh,
no, I was the E7.
oh, you were already a 7.
I was,
Okay, well, just a little
but I was
bit.
going through a divorce. You know what I mean? So that happened, but that shit
Yeah.
is gone. You know.
I'll tell you, it's funny, because when I opened your book to read it for the first time, and I saw the main character's name was Jasmine, and my daughter's name is Jasmine, and I'm like, oh, what's going to happen in this book? Every time I kept saying Jasmine, I just kept picturing my daughter. I'm like, I need to stop doing that, because this book called Fantasy Master is not going to be a good one.
Yeah, you don't want. And she was what? How old was she back then? You know.
She was younger, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um. So, and then you're talking about travel. You know what I mean? Like it just was not feasible. So I kind of tried to figure out what to do with this book once I got it. And I decided I was somewhere at a comedy show, and I said, that's what I'm going to do. I said, I am going to create events, because no one knew who I was. So I said, if I create events, then people will come out to see the celebrities or whoever were popular. And then I get to showcase my product. I get to showcase me. So I would go with the local comedian tour that was going around South Carolina and North Carolina, and I would open for the comedians with my book. So I created this gimmick of GL, you know, this character, you know, this gimmick. And I had these pictures with my robe open, and I had these roses looking down at them, and I had these abs and everything, and then I had and then I had a calendar going around my picture, and so I would say my little thing on the stage. I would have the ladies come up and get roses, and this whole fantasy master thing, whatever, and then I would be autographing my picture, and the comedians, boy, they would get freaking heated. They would get, I remember, what was the one comedian? I remember Doodoo Brown. I remember I was opening it with Doodoo Brown, and he came on stage and just roasted me. You know what I mean? Like, but it was all like jealous. You know what I mean? Like it was just jealousy. Because it's like, who is this dude? You know what I mean? He's not a comedian, but when they got off stage, all the ladies wanted to come over to me. They wanted my book. They wanted the autograph. They wanted the roses. They wanted something. It was different. You know what I mean? And that's when I realized that I have something here. You know what I mean? Like I have something here. And it just continued to grow to the radio show, to bigger concerts, to bigger events, to bigger relationships, celebrities, and just doors open. So it just all started from my divorce. And even to this day, she would say, she's my biggest fan, even though we're divorced, but she's like, they appreciate my success because, one, I'm able to do for my daughter, as I want to, but, and I thank her for the divorce too. It's like, because I probably wouldn't have wrote the book, without it. So, it was taking a negative and turning it into a positive, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy how from adversity, like I'm learning that too. Like I lost a job 2 years ago and it was like the end of the world for me. But now I'm looking back and I'm like, well, now I'm doing stuff and I like it and I'm happy and okay, that was not the end of the world. So I definitely can understand that. And when you were doing, I know you kind of did the radio show pretty frequently for a while and then took a little break and now it's back again. I remember when you were hot and heavy, I was watching every show. I listened to it. I was commenting and it was real exciting. And that's when I'm like, well, this guy, he's got all these people on here talking about relationships. And I know you and I have talked about my relationships. Goodness gracious, we could go down that road. But I definitely like that, you listen to both sides of everything. And because you've been doing this for how many years now? 20?
Yeah, I'm Benjamin Button.
But I mean, hey, 20 years of information,
Yeah.
Hearing from the female, hearing from the male, trying to instill your words of wisdom that people may or may not listen to. I didn't, but it worked out okay. I always knew, and I'll take this. When I had drama, I always would call you to help me out of it. But I know, you're working on some other things that it is real exciting with some things, your books and things. And I want you to talk about those. But since we're kind of on the love and it's Valentine's Day and things like that, what would you say? Well, I guess we could talk about it. What do you say is the biggest piece of relationship advice that you would give to, and you can do it both. You can do to a female, to a male, or to a couple, or do you have like something that you've noticed in these past 20 years that you're always saying the same thing over and over again?
Always. And first, I think that it has to start with stop separating men and women, from things, especially, well, you can't really do that because everybody processes things differently. But the one common thing that I do say to people that seem to be struggling with relationships, right, is that you'll know when a person comes along because they'll compliment you, not complicate you, right? So sometimes you take like, do you remember a toy? It's a round toy with like a square, a star, a
Mm-hmm.
circle, and you used to take the piece and try to fit it in there, right? But imagine either male or female, you're that circle with all these different shapes in them, and I call them personalities. And you're trying to match with that person, but your square personality is trying to go into this triangle.
Right.
Right now, if you turn the square sideways, some smart kid will think that, okay, I'm gonna put that in there, but only a portion is gonna
Goes in.
go, right? But you're never going to fit, perfectly. And I think that's what happens with a lot of relationships, is that they're so hell bent on trying to force stuff to work. And next thing you know, a month goes by, 6 months, then a year, and then you're looking back years later, and you're still trying to force that same piece into something that is not going to fit. But along the way, you build finances, you have kids, you start building things that make it harder and harder to walk away from. And while you're building this trail, you're still trying to force something that just doesn't work, and you bang in your head and you bang in your head until one day you wake up and you go, you know what, we're just not going to fit. And you have to go back to however long it was from the beginning. You never fit from the beginning. You know what I mean? So I think that people has to first understand who they are as an individual. Who I am as an individual. What is it that I need? What is it that I want? And how can I find somebody to be compatible, to complement that? Doesn't mean that they have to be doing the same thing. They just have to be complementing, of what it is that you're doing. Because if you're moving together like this, you can be doing your thing, they can be doing theirs, but you're moving this way,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you're trying to go this way and they're trying to go this way, this is what you're getting. And that's what most people situations end up at, you know.
You said my
Um,
situation, like you just scripted my exact marriage to the T. And the funny thing, and even to your point, trying to get those two pieces in, when you finally get that piece out and you look at it, it's a whole different piece.
yeah.
You don't recognize that piece when you're not trying to put it together. It's crazy. At least that was my experience.
Well, here's the as I like you said, just a plethora of knowledge up in here, and I just be like, but it's like we have characteristics, right? We have spiritual, emotional, physical, financially, professionally, personally. Like we have characteristics. You are the only one that knows where you're falling short at in those characteristics. So what happens is that people find what those characteristics are, and it's causing them heartache or discomfort in their life. So whenever you have heartache or discomfort or pain, you're looking for some type of relief, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some type of medication, something to cause that pain to go away. And if we're talking relationships, we're talking finding a relationship that is going to make that pain go away, right? So if you are financially struggling, your mind is going to have you attracted to someone who is financially stable. If you're like you wonder how like people end up messing with preachers and ministers and stuff like that, right? It's because somewhere along the line, their spirit, their spirituality, you know, uh, if they're religious or whatever, like they're feeling low in
Mm-hmm.
that arena. So if this person comes along with these great words, these great scriptures, they carry in that energy that will lift them up, giving them encouraging words. And the next thing you know, you're in this situation because you were trying to alleviate that pain. Now, did it make that relationship right? I'm not the judge of that, but most of the time when people look back on it, they realize that they were never compatible because once that pain is gone, let's say like you're in financial trouble, you're attracted to someone who you normally wouldn't be attracted to, but because they are financially stable, your mind allowed you to be attractive to them, and then you ended up in this relationship, right? Once they have relieved you of your financial struggles and you no longer have that problem, now guess what? You have to look at an individual that you probably was never really attracted to. Now you have to deal with all the other characteristics of this person that you never paid attention to because you were only focused on relieving your pain of whatever that is. How people get involved with bosses and people at work is because something in their professional career is struggling and they're trying to advance or they're trying to do whatever. So they find themselves attracted to people who can help them. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
you see that happen. They're in a relationship and then they get the promotion, they get whatever. Then all of a sudden, this person is no longer attracted to you, right? Because they weren't attracted to the other characteristics. So then they try to blame situations. And it's like, no, whenever I talk to somebody, I go all the way back and peel that onion. And then I go, it started here. It, you know, it just finished over there, but this was caused here. And then that, if they never understand the root cause of it, then guess what? They start all over again. Now it may not be professional. Now it may be, physical. Now it may be like someone who is overweight and they want to get better. They're attracted to someone who is going to, get them whatever.
Right.
Right. So if you keep using that same process, that's how you end up with the saying that says, if you're getting the same results from different people, maybe it's not the people, right? Because you are continuing on this path of self-destruction and not even realizing how and why it is happening. So until you go back to the root of something, people in relationships never really know how to stop it because they just keep doing it over and over and over again.
So let me ask you, to make sure the pieces fit, how long should you try to make those pieces fit? Like, I mean, pretty early on, like, what have you seen? You've seen people know pretty early on, or, because like, to your point, people say, oh, we've grown apart, but that's, to your point, the growing apart is because of the need has been fulfilled.
It's been fulfilled.
And then you are growing apart. But, if you're at the beginning and you're like, oh, let's see if our pieces fit, how long should someone,
there's no answer to that because it all depends on how you interact, what you talk about, what you share, what you're open to. The sooner you are able to see a person's reality, not their moments of greatness, because that's what happens is that a person can have a moment of greatness for months. You know what I mean? Like, it all depends on how you're interacting, how much time you spend together, what you're really sharing. Are you being open and honest about your life and things in your life, right? Like, perfect example is single parent. And I'm not going to just say women because you got single men out there. But you have a single parent who refuses to let somebody meet their kid, right, until they get to a certain point with this individual, right? So life is just freaking awesome because you don't have the kids. Kid ain't around. So y'all get to do whatever y'all want to do, right? The kid is off with a babysitter, off with the other parent.
Yeah.
They're off doing something. And then all of a sudden, you're in love, he says he's in love, and you are under this perception that life is good, right? Now you introduce the kids or the family or whatever. So now the reality kicks in about this kid. So now this individual who is accustomed to having you at their leisure, being able to do whatever they want to do, now is all of a sudden you don't have the time because now you got to go be a parent. You got to go do the things that you need to do. So here is the crossroad, right? So now it depends on how long that was before you got to that person's reality. So it could have been a month, it could have been 6 months, it could have been a year, it could have been whatever. But my point to your question is that it all depends on when you make your reality available, right? So once your reality becomes available, that's the only reason and the only time that someone can honestly see who you are. You know, they can see your faults, they can see your failures, they can see, you know, your reality. Like, I would watch people who like to lead with their material possessions.
Mm.
And then when you get to knowing that person, and then you realize that this is all surface, you know. So if you were attracted to that person because of these material possessions, and then you realize that their reality, they got bad credit, you know, they're living check to check, they don't really have whatever, so all this stuff is a facade, right? So now you have this reality, you know what I mean? So when you're talking about when do you know, like I said, is when you make your reality available.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially, and I'm only going to speak from the female side, but I have gone into relationships, I think, too open at times. I'm very much like my kids. Oh, let's meet my kids. Like, I want to be completely open and honest and jump in, and because I'm a person who, when I meet somebody and I know they're right, I'm all in.
Right.
And I noticed, and just from my experience, males in this respect are they're complete opposite. They're all close hold, and you're not gonna, see anything about me until, when I'm ready. So I definitely can understand how it's such a, a balance between when people open. Shoot, some guys don't open up for years. But hey, there are some women out there I know too that are like that. I wish I was a little bit more close hold with that aspect, but it's
it also depends too on how much a person is really into you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because when someone is really into you, they're more vulnerable. You know, they're going to open up more. But if someone has a hidden agenda, you know what I mean, they'll go along as long as they can continue to get what they want. You know what I mean?
I just washed your face.
Did you?
Yeah, what did you do? There you are.
And you know what I mean? Like, they they tend to string you along.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because they're still, remember, you're not the only one who has something that you're missing, that you want. Like, that other person has something too that they're missing, that they want.
Right.
And you could be given to them, whether it's sex, whether it's money, whether it's something. But you'll know what that something is because they're always going back to it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, imagine having a conversation with someone. Like, you could tell, like, if a guy only wants sex or a girl only wants sex, you can be talking, having a good conversation. They'll start talking about sex, and then you'll change the subject. And then guess what? Somewhere along the line, it's going to come back to,
right.
Yeah. Back to sex. If it's money, whether it's friends, whether it's family, whether it's whatever type of relationship, if it's about money, because it'll start out with, well, yeah, then they'll wait for you to open up the door. Then you say something about money, and then you start talking about it, and then you change the subject. Then guess what? Money keeps coming back around. So you just have to be keen to feeling people. You know what I mean? Feeling how people are, and you got to listen
Mm-hmm.
to them. You can't hear them. You got to listen to what they're saying.
Mm.
So
interesting. So with that, I know you've been around a lot of drama, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to maybe share a drama story with people that, honestly, you don't have to go into details, but I just find other people's drama so much more exciting than having to listen to my own drama.
Let's see, drama. I mean, like, what kind of drama? Like,
I know.
see all kinds of
drama. I can't even imagine the drama you've had to hear and deal with. I mean, I've told you some drama myself. And all you tell me is run, get away, leave, and I'm like, no, I can't.
one of the the stories I would share, like I won't say their name, but um, um, one of the stories I would share is a celebrity, um, and she was telling me a story about being molested by her dad, you know, at a young age, and they grew, a very abusive situation, with the dad and the mom, uh, and it was just a very hard, tough story to hear. You know what I mean? Especially once you see these people, and it's like dang, you put people on these little mini pedestals. It's like, oh shit, I love your music, I love this, and I love that, and I remember sitting, with this individual, and it made me realize that they're no different than us. You know what I mean? I almost felt kind of bad because it's just like you hear the stories of how they're performing in front of all these thousands of people, right? And they get home to silence. So I remember she was saying they were out in LA. They were, uh, you know, just broke up as a group. Now, this is a major family, musical family. They broke up as a group. And when they used to go back home, crowds of people would be at the airport, waiting on them to get off the plane and greet them. And everybody wanted to take them home. And I remember her telling me that she came back that last time and she had to catch a cab home. After the fame, after everything was over, it was a very dysfunctional family. And, you know, um, and I tried to get her back, on her feet. Uh, and I said, nobody really, it's so bad. I feel bad saying it. But I said, nobody really wants to hear you sing. You know what I mean? Like, and I, I felt kind of bad about that because you don't know like what's internally, especially when this is all you've done, this is all you know, and for someone to tell you that. But I had to be honest with her. You know what I mean? Like I had to be honest and say, I don't think anybody's going to come out to want to hear you sing. But what I will do is help you rebuild yourself as an individual and help them appreciate you. And then when you have their attention, then you can sing to them. You know what I mean? Because let's work on telling your story. Let's work on the speaking side of it. And we know singing is in you, but I would rather you use it as a treat and not as the main course meal. You know what I mean? And once she understood that, she just really thanked me, for my honesty. And it was a very powerful moment. She didn't really do much with the moment because she ended up disappearing on me, going into rehab, but that's a different story. So, but it was just very powerful so when I get asked these stories, uh, it's just so many, you know what I mean, even personally. But I think that one kind of stands out to me just because the person, they were a big, huge family musical group, you know. Um, and I hear the stories that how many abortions they done had. I like they
Yeah, totally.
Celebrities are just they're just people.
Well, they said,
You know.
you don't know what people are going through. You never know. Like, so be nice to people, and even when they're not nice to you, it's not because of you, it's because of them. So we've heard that all the time. I'm curious because you hear all these stories and you try to help, and people don't listen to you, and some people do. And how does it affect you as a person and your relationships, and how you feel that, do you project it? I mean, how do you think all of this actually affects you. And if you don't want to tell me, it's okay, but I'm just curious.
I'm open. I think at first it was bothering me because I was mostly dealing with friends, and family and stuff like that. Like the celebrities and stuff came, they came later, but I think getting people to separate Greg,
Mhm.
from knowing me to the other side of me. You know what I mean? Like to trust me, to sit down with me, to engage with me, let me help you. It's hard when you know people.
Mhm.
You know, when you personally know people, like it's easy for someone to go to a Dr. Phil or a doctor whoever because they don't really know them. You know, and it's easy for them to do that, but to talk to someone like me. So I think that was my hardest thing to get over, was to separate, get people to separate. You know, once here's the funny thing, once I started dealing with celebrities, once I started doing the radio show, and once I started doing those things of success, then it's like, oh, they want to listen now. Hey, what do you got going on? It's almost like I had to get validation from the world
Mhm.
or from wherever else. Um, and it's just weird. But how it affects me is that I've learned to not take anything personal. I've learned that um, once I think once I learned to just be honest,
Mhm.
you know, that I can say, okay, here you go. You know what I mean? And I'm good. Like I've learned to just, I'm good.
Yeah.
Once I let it go, because it's not my burden to carry. And people get to a point where I just say, you like it, I love it.
Mhm.
And I even said it to my sister. You know, um, I remember telling her, that she got into a physical confrontation with her boyfriend. Me and my brothers, you know, stepped in, do what brothers do, and then I turned around and told her, if you go back,
Mhm.
you, that's on you, right?
Right.
Um, and she went back, and it's on her. But I had to be okay with that. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I had to be okay with that. So I just don't hold. I just don't hold it. You
Yeah, I
know.
noticed that too. You've been, I don't remember when you posted, but I was laughing because I have a bad habit of not calling you back or not responding to you. That is on me, and I apologize for that. I think you had made a post one time. You're like, if I reach out to you one time, that's it.
I got other shit to do.
If you don't get back to me, that's on you. I don't have time. And I was like, all right, I feel you. You talking to me? 'Cause I felt like you were talking to me.
No, it's not. It wasn't. It's like it's not just you, but I know I have a good heart, right?
Mhm.
And I know I have resources. I know I have opportunities that were never given to me. You know what I mean? Like my radio show, all these things. Like I had to figure this out,
Right.
and I try to, and I'm moved by people's energy. So I see people doing something, and I reach out and I go, hey, you know, let me see what I can do. And I don't even charge people, to assist them and to do whatever. So it just kind of makes me feel some kind of way when it's just like, okay, you're putting out there that this is what you want to do. This is your success. This is what you want to do. And I'm going to say, hey, let me help you out. Let me
Right.
see what I can do. Let me, whatever. And so when people don't return the energy, then I take it, okay, then our energy just
Right.
isn't connecting. I don't take it personal, because it just be like, okay, maybe there's something I don't see, that I don't know, that, okay, you're talking about it. Unless you're ready, I can take you and put you on the stage. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
could take you and put you on a platform, but if you're not ready
Right.
for these things, then you're going to hurt yourself. You know what I mean? Like some guy was sewing hats, sewing, stitching hats, and and t-shirts and stuff. And I messaged him and I said, hey, what's your website? I don't have a website. I was like, but you're advertising that you're doing
Right.
hats. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, how are we supposed to like take your word for it? you know, you know. So the energy, I just left it alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the energy and the vibe just has to be there. But I don't take nothing personal at all.
Yeah. I like that. I do get in my little moods too, and I start getting busy, and then then I get mad at myself because I know that, and for you, and I was like, oh, I want to on your show, I want to come on for whoever at the point, and you're like, yeah, sure, come on, and then I just dropped the ball, and then I look back, I'm like, that's me, 100% on me. But when, like you said, when it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Valentine's Day coming up. Do
Uh-huh.
you have, and we can kind of like do a little banter back and forth. I was thinking, some do's and don'ts for Valentine's Day. One thing I can say is don't forget it. that's that's a pretty easy one.
That is the number one. That's the that's the only one.
No, right, don't forget it.
That is, it's like, because I had, when you sent me that and I thought about it and I was like, and I remember posting that too somewhere, but it was like, Valentine's Day is very tricky. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very tricky thing. But it goes back to knowing your partner.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know your partner. Like, you have some women who really gets into Valentine's Day. You have some who don't give two craps about it, but that's the tricky part because they act like they don't care about it, but don't do nothing. You know
You're
what I
gonna
mean?
laugh.
Like, so
Darwin Crooks, our friend, who apparently didn't know that you and I knew each other, but he's worked with both of us. He's like, oh, is that this month? So he's trying to be smart. Yeah. Yeah.
but it's funny because it's like, it's so tricky because you really, really have to know your partner. And I people get into routine, they get into habits. So some of my don'ts is, don't keep doing the same thing over. You know what I mean? Like, you have your norms, you have your chocolates, you
Mm-hmm.
have your flowers, you have your dinner, you have your lingerie, and then you may veer off to something every now and then, but try to do something that does, like, okay, before I say that part, it's like when someone comes home, they knock the people who go and they stop off the side of the road and get the teddy bears or they get the baskets or they get whatever. And I never knocked that because, I never knocked that because it depends on their financial,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So I never knock it. But if your financial isn't the problem and you stop off and you get one of those things, you're gonna be in trouble. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like, you're gonna make Julio excited, but you're gonna be in some trouble. But do something that does not require money, something that requires thought,
Mm-hmm.
something that requires effort. Like, if I was dating, I can take somebody to Roof Chris, you know, anytime,
Right.
all the time.
Right.
I can do all those things. I can buy jewelry, I can buy handbags, I can do all these things anytime I want. So if I'm doing that already throughout the year, like, it doesn't seem any special come this day.
Mm-hmm.
So what I wanted to do is that I wanted to teach men how to do therapeutic massage just enough to get through an evening, let them rent my tables, help them set up an
Mm-hmm.
environment, get a hotel room, set the table up with the roses, just do the whole out of my book, right? You take this section out of my book and you bring it to life. The handcuffs, the blindfolds, the candles, the teacup candles, the rose petals, the oil, this whole scenario, right? You take her, you run the bubble bath, you let her soak in there. And the tough part about this whole process of trying to do something that you have to be creative with, again, you have to know your partner. But imagine someone doing that for you, you know what I mean, and put some effort into learning something different or learning how to cook this particular
Right.
meal. You know, you're doing something that doesn't require finance. I mean, everything requires money, but you know what I mean? Something out of just going to buy something. You're putting some effort in. So imagine creating this romantic evening. And if men, for a very brief moment, can put their dick aside and not make everything about sex, like you can get all the sex you want in the world if you just stop thinking about sex. So if
Hello,
you
that's like, hello, that's the thing. Like we try to tell guys, like, what is it? Foreplay starts with good morning. Like, that's my thing. You do the dishes, you're gonna get some that night, and it's gonna be good. Like, just stupid stuff that you got to do. Don't sit here and
right,
try to push it on us, because that doesn't work.
yeah. So if you take just a thought process, and I say, and you know, so try to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Especially if you've been with someone for a while, like you have to navigate through time. And what I mean through navigate through time is that you have to know that if you've been with someone for 5 years, they're ultimately going to change thought processes. So you have to figure out what those new thought processes are. So what someone wanted at 25, they no longer want at 30. What they want at 30, they no longer want at 35. Life and everything changes its direction. And if you don't keep revisiting that individual, you're going to get lost. And that's how you end up years later not knowing who you're with, is because, yeah, the person keeps changing, but nobody changes together. You know what I mean? Like you don't sit and you go, something's different about her. Let me sit down. Let's talk about what's different. You know, now how do I need to maneuver, and vice versa. It's not just a one-way thing. So if we're talking about Valentine's Day, then you have to think about something different because the person has changed. You know, they want more. The older they get, the more they want intimacy, not sex. They
Right.
want intimacy. They want to feel that they are appreciated. Um, and saying those words actually leads me to the ultimate, the ultimate freaking thing. Like on my radio show, my biggest listening show outside of Ben Vereen was Infidelity.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and before I get into that talk right there, let's talk about this. Is another don't get your wife and your mistress and your girlfriend all the same thing.
and, and I've had that happen to me. I'm not gonna lie, I had that happen to me. I was dating a guy, but he was dating somebody else, and I knew her on Facebook. And darn it, if she didn't post the same exact thing that he got me, that he got her, that was just blew my mind. But I think also adults, and this is kind of funny, don't propose on Valentine's Day. That is so tacky to me. I think my parents way back got married on Valentine's Day, which I think is another tacky thing. But I'm like, don't propose on Valentine's Day. It's so cliche.
Don't get married on Valentine's Day either.
Propose. Before you jump in, let me ask you about that. So, say you're in a relationship, 5 years, Valentine's Day is coming around. Your significant other, whatever side, does something for you, to you, with you that is so wrong, like they get you a scent they know you don't like, they buy you a color that you never like, something like that. Should you suck it up and be happy and act like it's all good, or should you say something?
Again, you have to know your you have to know your partner, and you have to know your relationship, right? Here's one of the biggest problems that I get all the time is that people in relationships, they tend to always want to halt how people feel. They don't want to hear how you feel. So that is what really causes the problem, right? So if that was to happen, you don't have to, it's all about the delivery. You know what I mean? Like if you are aggressive with your delivery, you're going to get an aggressive response back. So if it's like, man, how the fuck you give me this stupid shit? How the fuck I'm gonna do with this? This ain't even my,
Right.
like if you start approaching, in that capacity, then it opens up the door for that person who may already have an issue with you. And that's probably why you ended up with some bullshit, is because they already have some hidden stuff they need to get off of their chest. And this is the prime opportunity for them to get it off their chest, because they know, if I give her this, I know, he's not even paying attention, or she ain't paying attention. So it's going to be an opportunity for that door to open, for them to get off of their chest whatever it is, that, because it never ends well, right? So there's always an approach to things, is to say, I, thanks for the gift, or thanks for whatever, and then that's when you go into a discussion about how I feel, but if people start going, you made me feel this way, you did this, once you start doing that you thing, then people get defensive, and they start putting up that shield, like they in 300 Spartans and shit. They start putting them shields up, and you just ain't getting past it, because you're just you-ing the hell out of them. And so you have to refrain from the you thing and say, this is how this made me feel. When, you know what I mean? When I received this, I felt this way, because nobody can't take away how you feel, but they become defensive when you start saying you. Everything is you. You did this. You made me. You did this. And it's like, well, your actions caused me to feel this way. This is how I received what what happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're bringing it back here. But if someone can't appreciate and respect how you feel, then they don't respect and appreciate you at all, because they have to now reevaluate themselves to see why they're making you feel that way. And if it's intentional, then you got problems, right? But if it's unintentional, it's workable.
Yeah, I like that. I unfortunately have very high expectations, which I need to calm them down. I always expect, like in my head, I see, oh, I'm going to get this and this and this, but I have learned over the years to stop that. So now when I get a gift, I'm totally surprised, and I don't expect any of those things. So I think that's a learned. My daughter's dealing with it right now. She's early 20s, and if she gets something she will go off on somebody real quick. And what happens 6, 7, 8 hours later, after all that drama and the crying and the yelling and fighting? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Oh, so you just stress yourself out for a whole day over nothing in the end.
Yeah. But she has to realize that she's setting a pattern. You know what I mean? And it's not sustainable. Like, nobody wants to be in a relationship, with those highs and lows, especially men. Not today. Like, if you thought that, the older men has no patience, these young cats, they ain't got no patience whatsoever. You know what I mean? And they, all they know is the internet, and all they know is that they got opportunities. So it's like, it has to be reeled in, because it's just, that's a bad foundation to start. You know what I mean? Because when you try to have people living up to a certain standards that they probably are not accustomed to maintaining, you know what I mean? Then it just changes the dynamics of everything, So, but yeah.
I agree with you too, that it's nice to get things purchased for you. Yes, 100%. But man, if you do something from the heart that is so genuine, and if you pay, like I pay attention all year long of little things here and there, and try to do something, different, and to make that work. And that just speaks so much more than, the tired old, here's your dozen roses, they're going to die. And
Yeah.
And that's the thing about me. Like, my people know me, that don't get me flowers, because they're going to die, and don't. So, you don't.
Yeah, and so Darwin made a point. He's like, I've never cared too much about Valentine's Day, but I celebrated it because women I was involved with didn't want to disappoint anyone, and not a fan. And that's what I was saying, like, when you go back to knowing your partner, and women also can't be mad if the men are not as excited about Valentine's Day as they are, because generally you're the recipient, of this, right? And at the end of the day, we're hoping that what we get you is going to be good enough for us to get some ass, in
Mhm.
the other day. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
we're just ensuring that we're going to get something at the end of the day by making sure that you have a nice Valentine's Day, right? But those standards have been put out there, though. You know what I mean? Like, put the standards out there, making men feel like I think women are in competition with other women when it comes to Valentine's Day and Christmas and these things, because they like to show
What they
other
got.
people what
Yeah.
they got and what their man got them. So the man is spending so much time trying to make sure that this woman is going to have this great Valentine's Day, that she can tell her mom and her sisters and what a great man
Mhm.
he is, or a great man he was. So that pressure is put on us to now say, okay, I can't just fucking write a card with "I love you" on it, and whatever, 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 because now I just like, imagine freaking couple months ago I just got you a Louis Vuitton for Christmas, and now it's Valentine's Day, and now you want a Gucci, or what I mean, like you want like. And I'm not saying all women are like that, but I'm just saying that you have to be careful what type of pressure you're putting on these men, because then it's no longer about love and
Mhm.
romance and the thought process of loving someone. Now it just turns into another gift grab. Like, I got to go out and make sure that I outdid last Valentine's Day, like I did with Christmas. I got to make sure I outdid the last thing I did for her birthday, and
Yeah.
Mother's
You can
Day,
see the
and
stuff though. Like even for Christmas, I'll see some of the stuff that apparently these men do for these women, and I'm just like, that is way too much over the top. And half the stuff ain't even real. And I think it's getting to the point now where a lot of the younger generation, to your point, is calling BS on this stuff, because they know these people are not out here doing all this. And there's fake photos with another guy in the background.
but everybody is
Crazy.
trying to keep up with the unsustainable.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, especially if you're married, it's like, shit, my finances.
Yep.
Like, if I go out and spend this money, I'm spending your money too. Like, it just don't make no freaking sense. You know what I mean? Like, why? You know
I'm
what I
just
mean? So,
about like, my thing is like, Kevin and I are so busy. I'm like, I just want some time. That's what I want. Put your computer down, put your phone down. Let's just spend some time alone. And like, I can do that.
well, and it's like, I would even venture to say, do something that is not a thing. You know what I mean? If you're going to do something for a woman, especially if she works and she does whatever, and vice versa, go get a massage together,
Mhm.
go get a manicure, pedicure together, go do something that you can, that is for you. You're being treated.
Mhm.
Because if I give you a thing, the thing is going to go somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's just going to go sit on the shelf somewhere. It's just going to go do whatever. So do something that is going to be for that person.
Yeah.
You can't go to the movies anymore, you know what I mean? But you still can go have a picnic. You know what I mean? Go
Mhm.
freaking do something that is not requiring, monetary things, because that's the only way you're going to really know how connected you are with
Yeah.
that person.
That's
You, you,
great advice. Yeah. I
you,
like it. I like it.
you know?
So
So
hopefully everybody does take your advice when I post this, and then we'll see everybody saying.
see what they say. It's all good.
I'll tell you
If
right
not,
now, I do not want my Kevin cooking me dinner. That's all right. But that's funny to that point. He actually, I mean, I know what we're doing for Valentine's Day. He actually, his cousin or uncle or somebody owns a catering business, and they're actually going to cater the dinner for us and bring the whole Valentine's dinner to our house. So that's kind of cool. So, we don't have to work, and we get a really nice meal that I wouldn't deal, with the whole filet mignon and all those people. I'm not trying to cook all that. So
right.
that's what we're doing. But
Yeah. I was about to say, get a chef
yeah,
or something, like, you can
yeah,
always do something, depending on your
and we
finances.
do spa days in our house too. Like, I've set up the whole thing, and vice versa. So we definitely getting into that point. But I can tell you, like, I definitely want to have you back on because there's so much more that we can talk about. And my 30 minutes probably is like now an hour because we're just still talking. I don't care, but it's like whew, a lot. But what I want you to do before we go is let everyone know about like what you're working on, how they can find your stuff, and all that good stuff before we shut us down for the Wednesday.
So you can catch me on my radio show on artistfirst.com, the GL Henderson Radio Hour, and it actually goes live every second Wednesday, which means that I should be going live. You know, I'd be doing the show here in a couple hours, well, in an hour. And I'm going to be doing a Valentine's Day treat with my sex coach. And so, because I've been studying to become a clinical sex coach. And so I'll be doing that. And what I'm doing right now is that I'm doing a live version of my book called A Child's Cry. So that's what we were talking about, you know, off air, is my live videos are, you know, they're up there, but they're versions of chapters from my book, A Child's Cry, that is not probably going to go into print. So I'm doing a live version of it and just telling the chapters instead of reading the chapters. So I'm actually talking through the chapters. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want men to dig deep down in themselves and realize that we are struggling at a point with our emotions and depression and all of these things because we're not able to release. So what I wanted to do is tell my truths openly. You know, I don't want anybody to read my stuff. I want to tell my truths. And it's very vulnerable because I remember breaking down when I started talking about my mom, because my mom has passed, but I was going to turn the camera off. But I was like, no, I want this to be authentic, and I want these stories and these things to be real. So what I want people to do is I want them to go back after they look at it, and I want them to laugh. I want them to snicker. I want them to have their comments. I want them to do whatever. But one thing that they will never be able to escape is when they have their moment to themselves and they have to reflect on their own life. And once they're able to reflect on their own life, then they'll understand where I'm coming from, why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. So that is the project that I'm working on right now, along with probably releasing my CD called Therapeutic Poetry. So you just have to stay tuned to my radio show and to my live postings. Yeah, those are the realest that I'm going to get.
I'll definitely post all the links and stuff when this is over, and I'll repost it. Darwin's cracking me up.
You behind the power curve, player. You behind the power curve.
As much as it used to be stressful working in the battalion, I sure do miss working with the soldiers and just the banter and just good group of people. I do really miss that camaraderie, being on the outside. Yeah. I do miss you guys, like, for real.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, Darwin, man, you missed out, player. That I've been doing that for years, dog. I don't even think I would trust him with that knowledge. I just don't know. I'm just.
Hey, each their own. I think that's awesome.
I don't even know if I would trust him with that knowledge, boy.
Hey, well, so I don't know if you know this about me, but I've been kind of starting to tee it up a little bit. But I plan on putting together, and I may even reach out to you, putting together a kind of class on relationships in different generations, because I'm in one of them, and I feel like, you know, it worked for me. And the experiences him and I have gone through with the different generations and how, you know, we've had to learn to deal with each other. Right. And, you know, I'm at an age where my sex peak is up here, and most men my age is not there. So I went the opposite, because that's at that point what I was looking for, and more things came with it. Right. But I want to be able to help other people It's funny when people are going to listen to this, they're not going to have any idea why we're laughing. But I want to be able to help people in that respect. So hey, I may, lean on you for some people. Yeah.
That went crazy. But yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think that that it's so many different dynamics when it comes to relationships. You know what I mean? You can take the old, young, the interracial,
Yep.
like there's so many different angles to go with. But we're everybody's so quick to look on the outside and judge, but until you know a person's story, that's all you have is judgment, you know. So like I said before, I know a lot of celebrities and they got the same kind of pains, you know what I mean, and the same struggles. So like, it ain't always what it looked like, you know.
Yep, I hear you. I hear you. Well,
Yeah.
Greg, thank you so much. Thank you for sticking with us, coming back, got you on here. Wearing the red hat for Valentine's Day. I'm going to promote all your stuff. I'm sure you're going to get maybe some questions afterwards. We'll get some interaction over, watching your I guess you're going to keep them on Facebook Live here.
Yeah. The stuff will be Facebook Live. I've been struggling with my last chapter, the next chapter that I'm doing, because it's a lot of my stuff is very, very personal and very intimate. You know what I mean? So I have to try to get through the process of being able to share it,
Right.
Because I do have a lot of people on my Facebook that my family, my friends, people who have been through these journeys. So they're hearing these stories for the first time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's a very vulnerable thing. So what I will tell you is that if you have interest and people in your group or whatever want to have a question and answer session, I'll be more than happy to come back and do a live question and answer session with them. If you find the interest in it. So I definitely will do that for you. Um,
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and tell them to go, to listen to the videos. Like, how much time you got? 1 minute?
Who knows?
Who knows? So, because one of the chapters that I did was on suicide, and it was a very personal chapter because I remember making fun of two Marines who were looking for attention and they went the attempted suicide route. And I was making fun of them during the act of doing what they were doing. And it was, you have to go listen to it to hear the rest of the story. But that's how personal these stories are. You know what I mean? Like, they're very deep stories. And there are going to be some fun ones. Don't get me wrong. Like I got one when I called my mom after I had a sex marathon, and that was hilarious. But I'll tell that story.
Yeah,
but,
I followed your whole story about giving that guy his money back after he bought you that battery or whatever it was. That was paying attention to that one. That was a good story.
yeah. So they're all good. They're all going to be some good stories, but some of them are very, very touching. That's why the cover has the tears and and it's a very tough book. But I wanted to do something different in the pandemic, and I'm sure if you see other authors doing it, then where they got it from.
Hey, well, I might start doing it because, and I don't have a book, but my blog that's like 4 years of 150 blogs. I'm like, I need to just start talking about these blogs because it's cathartic.
It is.
Absolutely. Even doing this is for me. It makes me happy and feel better at the end. And I get to see people I haven't seen in a long time and get to reconnect and actually show up and not ghost them. So
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But again, like I said, if you do have an interest, I'll come back and do a question and answers with people if they want to, and but they'll have to know that I just keep it real,
And that's what this is about. That's what I want these lives to be, like comfortable communication, real, That's like real, raw, and relevant. That's what I like. So
Yeah, you should put that on the t-shirt.
yes, I know. Thank you so much, Greg. I definitely
Yeah.
appreciate
Thank
all
you.
of
Thank you.
and we will have you back. And thanks everybody for sticking with us. And our 10th
Yeah.
in the books, we did our 10th Live Well, and you were part of it. So thank you so much.